I discovered that I had to swallow a lot of my pride, because sometimes people would just walk into the mall already seething with anger. No matter how much you try to be nice or whatever, people would just be really verbally abusive with you, as if the one who caused all their problems. It was quite an experience having to carry the wheelchair all the time. Oh man, it was just a mess. I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. That was a huge challenge. Hey, what's up everyone, it's Aaron Shu here, and in today's video I just thought we needed to talk about my experiences the first time that I was formally employed as someone with a disability. Well, in actual reality, the truth is it really wasn't my first job, but I consider it to be my first job because it's one of the only two that I've had so far, which is kind of sad. So I just take it as my first job, but it really wasn't. The reality is this was industrial attachment. It was part of my undergraduate studies, and in order for me to attain my degree I needed to go for about 8 months of industrial attachment. I ended up doing 11, which is really fantastic. But anyway, that's what I'm taking as my first job. The way that I got this job is quite interesting. I spoke about it in a previous video, but anyway, I only had 1,000 subscribers back then, and now there's a lot more of you, so I'm just gonna talk about it like I've never talked about it before. I had been struggling to actually get a place for industrial attachment. Number one, because I had to find something that was relevant to my field of study, and that was marketing. That's what I was studying back in school. Whatever job I got, it had to be related to that, or I wasn't gonna pass. Then I was also thinking about somewhere where I could easily go, and then all the other things that you need to think about when you have a job as someone with a disability, like, is the work environment accessible? Am I gonna be able to go there easily? Thinking about public transport and stuff like that, a whole lot of things. So while my classmates were already getting places for their attachment, I was still struggling, and I was in serious panic mode because I kept thinking that if I can't land a job on time, one, I'm gonna be behind my classmates. Also, I might end up failing my studies altogether, which was quite a scary thought. But I wasn't hopeless, so I kept looking. And then I remember one day I was randomly online, and then I saw that this guy that I followed, who's a big time entrepreneur here in Zimbabwe, was online, and I followed him. He was somebody that I admired, the way that he was running his businesses at the time. So I just thought I would drop him a random message just to say, hey, you inspire me, blah blah blah, because I was really like a huge fan of this guy. I'm sure this guy gets a lot of DMs or inboxes from a lot of people because he was that popular, but for some reason he actually responded to my message, and I wasn't expecting it at all, and was like, oh hi, thank you, and I appreciate that. Where are you from, and what do you do? And I was like, okay, maybe this is my opportunity. And I just said to myself, what's there to lose anyway? I told him I'm from Chinoi, I'm a student, and I find it that you would ask. I'm actually looking for a place for industrial attachment. And they said, oh, okay, what's your field of study? And I told him I'm doing marketing, and then I was like, oh, brilliant. I could organize something for you at my company if you don't mind. I was like, if I don't mind? What? I was screaming to myself. I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And then immediately I was like, it can't be this easy. Probably it's not really him behind the account, somebody else. And then I was like, oh, but of course to him I said, of course, I'm very much interested. Wow, thank you so much. That would be amazing. And he was like, okay, actually send me an email tomorrow with your CV and stuff. And then I said, let me push it a little bit. And I said, can I also send you my friend's CV? Because I also wanted to do attachment at the same place with my friend for obvious reasons. He was like, sure. Does your friend also do the same program? And I'm like, yes. Long story short, I sent him the email the following day. The rest is history. I got the job. I got the place for industrial attachment, and within 2 weeks I was working. And the best part about it is that I was actually interviewed interning there, the local branch in my hometown. I had been worried that he might ask me to go to the capital city, Harare, and maybe intern at the headquarters, but no, he actually said, no, I think it would be better for you if you do it closer to home, but of course you can come to the HQ every now and again so that you get the full experience of what it's like working for the organization. So that is how I found myself working in a bank for my first job. My first day at the bank was really wild. I remember that my friend and I were the first people to get there. The only other people were available were the security personnel. We had to wait for everybody else to come through, and then as they did, just meeting them awkwardly. And I was looking out, trying to see if they would cringe at the sight of a wheelchair or not. But the first impressions that I got were really cool. We were vibing. Nobody seemed to mind or act like they'd seen a ghost simply because I was in a wheelchair. And I was like, wow, this is a really good start. I might work well here. The first day was a blur, honestly. We were just being introduced around, learn how the place functioned, and it was an orientation of some sort. One other thing that I was really worried about was whether the place was accessible or not. It was a huge concern, particularly the bathrooms. And as soon as I realized that the bathrooms were very accessible, there were no problems at all with the toilets, the banking mall itself was accessible, my wheelchair could fit under the desk, I almost fell to my knees and thanked God right there and there. I mean, of course I did. It was really, really a huge relief. So I was falling in love with this place with every single minute that passed. So I immediately was shown my desk. I got my laptop. Although this was a banking mall, it was almost as if I was also working within the marketing department, because my desk was almost like the front desk / customer service kind of vibe. That's what I did mostly. I wasn't doing any telling. There were many things that I actually loved and enjoyed about this job. Number one, I've already spoken about how the place was accessible and how I could make it work for me as a wheelchair user. That was a bonus. Number two, I loved that the people that I was working with, my boss was very understanding, and wasn't understanding in that sort of patronizing kind of way. I loved that he didn't treat me like a baby. If I did something foolish, I also got into trouble, and it wasn't trying to baby me like what most people would do, but at the same time he was just empathetic enough. It's like he kept my disability at the back of his drawer. He knew maybe some of my physical limitations and would always check in and see if I wasn't too tired or stuff like that. Sometimes he would even be like, no, we are not very busy today, you can go home early if you need to, which as someone with my condition I can tell you is God sent, because sometimes I do tend to get tired a lot. Not to say that I wasn't competent at my job. No. I was very competent and I could pull in the hours. But of course, extra rest is always welcome because, So he was very well balanced in terms of understanding just how to push me enough, how and when to push me enough to learn and to deliver on my duties as expected. And he also knew when to cut me some slack, so to speak. So I loved my boss, my supervisors, great people, understanding people. And as someone with a disability, let me tell you, it's very difficult, almost impossible to work with managers who understand your needs and respect them and don't just assume or think you are being dramatic for the sake of it. My other workmates were also exceptional. We had very friendly conversations, we worked well together, we collaborated, we learned from each other, we joked with each other. If you know me personally, you know that I'm someone who loves to be sassy every now and then. I do crack jokes at people. I like teasing people if I'm comfortable with them. I'm that guy who have a nickname for you within 24 hours and stuff. The fact that my workmates would also give it back to me was amazing. Usually people kind of cringe and shy away from you, but I often found myself in the crossfire of jokes and being teased and being pranked. So I loved that. I loved that spirit of oneness and the teamwork. It was absolutely amazing. There was also a lot of job satisfaction that came with what I was doing, with my duties and roles, which I appreciated so much. I think most students, maybe it's just an African problem, this thing that usually happens, that when you go for industrial attachment, you end up doing so many things that have nothing to do with your degree program, like being asked to make coffee and running errands and calling up people's girlfriends, and by people I mean your boss, or just a lot of random things that don't contribute to your studies. But in my case, that wasn't the case at all. Both my friend and I, we were learning the exact things we're supposed to be learning. The job was challenging enough to just push us a little bit out of our comfort zones, which was great, because that's how you grow as a person, by stepping out of your comfort zone and stretching yourself a little bit to do things that you've never done before and stuff like that. So that was also one thing that I greatly appreciated about the job. And this is not to say that everything was like a bed of roses and not everything was rainbows and sunshine. No. There were a lot of challenges that also came with the job. Like, for example, the hours were long. We were expected to be at the bank by 7 a.m. We officially opened the doors at 8 a.m., which is understandable. But unlike other banks which close at 3 p.m., this bank, we worked until 5 p.m. And now you know that when you're dealing with cash and numbers and stuff like that, the moment you close your doors is not when the business is over. We had to work for 2, 3, 4, or even 5 extra hours to make sure that all the transactions of the day balanced. And man, when I say it was brutal, I mean it was brutal. The unfortunate part for me was that by sitting in the same position for hours on end, it meant that I couldn't do weight shifts to relieve the pressure so that I wouldn't get pressure sores on my bums. So that was really quite difficult. I started developing a lot of problems. My legs started swelling up, and then the tiredness, it was brutal. I remember at some point I actually had to go and talk to my boss and be like, you know what, the last thing that I want is to crash. I can't really do this 7 a.m. to 9/10 p.m. long hours. It's too much for my body. He was quite understanding. I was allowed to go home at 5 p.m. sometimes, or even 4 p.m. depending on how busy the day was, or whether or not I had completed my tasks for the day. So that was challenge number one. Challenge number two was the place was in the CBD area of my hometown. I lived at the other end of the town, the outskirts of the town. As someone who does not have my own private transport, I had to make use of public transport. Every day we had to use these items that we call combis, which are mini buses, so to speak. They would ferry us back and forth. Oh man, it was quite an experience having to carry the wheelchair all the time. Oh man, it was just a mess. Public transport is a nightmare for anyone with a disability, particularly disabilities that affect somebody's mobility, and you have to carry your mobility device. Oh man, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. That was a huge challenge. Probably the biggest challenge that I faced had to do with the actual work itself. Like I said, I was almost sort of like working front desk, so I had to deal with a lot of customers. Oh man, let me tell you, dealing with human beings is one of the most challenging things you can ever experience. I'm sure people who deal with people one-on-one will agree with me. In my case, you are dealing with people, which in itself is difficult already, but you are also dealing with people's finances and money related issues, and people are quite touchy about those things. Tempers are already high, people are frustrated, they are not exactly in the nicest of moods. It was difficult dealing with people. I discovered that I had to swallow a lot of my pride, because sometimes people would just walk into the mall already seething with anger. No matter how much you try to be nice or whatever, people will just be really verbally abusive with you, as if you're the one who caused all their problems. But I understood that it was a part of the job, so I just swallowed my pride. And according to my boss's words, the customer is always right. So yeah, big time. By the time we left the place, my friend and I were pros. Don't be afraid to go for the career that you want. Also, don't allow your disability to limit you. You would be amazed by the things that can happen, the stones that can be moved to make things work for you if you communicate your needs effectively and efficiently. Just give it a try. You never know. It might end up being the best decision that you've ever made. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and also learned something from it. Let me know if you have any further questions for me, or if you'd like to share your own experiences. Please do so in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and of course turn on the notifications to stay up to date with all my latest videos. Remember, your life is a gift. Make it count always. I will see you soon. Cheers.